So I work for Leadership Tribe, and I'm quite excited to be your host and looking forward to carry on with this journey with you. So without further ado, let's have a quick look, ladies and gentlemen. So yes, so give me a sign if you can see my screen. Okay, thank you very much. So what is the success rate of this change program of 1 to 100%? What is the success rate of these change programs? Type it in the chat window. According to you, what is the success rate of any change programs which happens in organizations? – 0%. That means there is no change happening all over the world? Okay, 20% are successful. Interesting. Okay, some are saying 50%. Okay, some are saying less than 30%. That's quite judgmental. Leaders are already 0%. Interesting. So this is an interesting data from Gartner. When we talk about the organization change success, there is a clear failure of up to 50%. There is a clear failure up to 50%, and there's a mixed results up to 60%, and a clear success of 30%. So if you ask me, if there is a 50% failure, why do we even work on them? So I would recommend, instead of wasting money, spend that money on your employees. When the employees' morale is boosting, the cohesiveness of the employees is even better. Happy employees build amazing products. Amazing products bring in more economic value for the organizations. So as change catalysts or change agents, we are working in a volatile, uncertain, complex environments. COVID is a great example of a VUCA environment. So during these environments, one needs to understand how much do we really understand about the situation where we are right now, and how well we can predict the results of our actions. Whatever actions we take, how well can we predict? Because what we are trying to do is we are trying to change it to a new normalcy. And how well we can execute this strategy, because we have to take people, process, product, and environment. And if you do look at VUCA, inflation, especially in England, there is a double-digit inflation rate. It's getting expensive. Every product which we want to buy for a day-to-day living, it's very expensive. On top of it, Bank of England is also increasing the interest rates. And it impacts us. It impacts us as individuals. It is impacting for the businesses and organizations as well. So this is happening outside, and it is impacting the organizations internally and individuals. So we call this as a system. When we talk about a system, ladies and gentlemen, what is a system according to you? Type it in the chat window, an example of a system according to you. Okay, some of the answers are coming through. Systems as computer networks. Okay. Interconnected to people. Brilliant. Platforms. Okay, we are talking about system as a family. In families, you have a structure. There is a hierarchy. There are rules. There are procedures. And within all those things, sometimes shit does happen. I still remember as a teenager, as an early teenager, I did steal my dad's motorbike keys. And what does Krishna do? Picks up four of his friends and goes on a motorbike ride. And during that ride, in India, where I was born and grew up, we have traffic wardens. We call them as traffic wardens. They are cows walking down the middle of the street. I couldn't control it. And yes, me and my friends ended up in hospital. It was not my intent to cause pain for my family, but things does happen. So ladies and gentlemen, when we talk about systems, it's a web of interdependencies. And if you apply that for organizations, just compare your family with your organizations. Can you see the similar patterns here, ladies and gentlemen? Is that a yes? There is an organization structure, there are policies, procedures, hierarchy, and sometimes things do go wrong. Things do go wrong, but it's not by purpose, by design. Things do impact us. And for us, we need to understand these are complex systems we work with. We work with these complex systems. And if we do understand what these systems are, it does help us. These complex systems are the ones whose behavior is intrinsically challenging to model due to the dependencies, competitions, relationships, or other interactions between their parts or given system and its environments. So one needs to understand that systems that are complex have distinct properties that arise from the relationships, which are not linear. These are emergent, spontaneous orders, and they adapt. And the feedback loops where it needs the information to adapt and react to the changing environments. And ladies and gentlemen, the next chart I would like to share is an organization, a leadership structure, which is so chaotic and it's so, one can't even dig into it to make sense of it. This is an organization structure of a company which went bust less than 24 hours ago. It's a $13 billion company which couldn't withstand with the changing market needs. So when we talk about this complex adaptive systems, when you, as we know, the systems are complex. And if you add the agents as the human element, we call them as a complex adaptive systems. Some of them are multi-scalar. They are nested within them. These systems we work with, it has a history and it also has the unpredictability. It can be chaotic dynamics. And they are emerging behaviors as we are iterating and learning. We are adapting to the changing needs. It is multidisciplinary. It's connections of relationships and networks. So we work in this complex adaptive systems. And when we are working in this complex adaptive systems, there are some things we can see. For example, the market behaviors or the events which happen, markets have changed, and that might impact some of the teams. These are the events which are happening right now. And there's an interrelationship with the events. And if you dig deeper into the events which we are facing at the team level, business unit, organization level as well, there are patterns, ladies and gentlemen. There are patterns. You can see some patterns which are occurring again and again. And if you dig even to the patterns, it's the underlying structures that causes those patterns. If you look at the organization structures, like Lloyd's Bank, IBM, they are 100 years old. And there's some of these organizations, not particularly these examples I've given you, some of the legacy organizations, they have procedures or structures which have been created 50 years ago. How do they help us right now? And these are the organization structures which we are talking about. Within those, there are people who are working. And there are some things which you cannot see. There are thoughts, struggles, trauma, feelings, requests. And it's quite evident coming out from the COVID and we are going back to work. These are some of the things which we cannot see what is impacting the employees or your team members you're working with. There's some things one needs to be more cognizant about when we are trying to bring change, ladies and gentlemen. And yes, we want to bring change. There are multiple frameworks out there. If you look at Agile, for example, it has simple values, 4 values and 12 principles. And there are more than 40 Agile methods, various frameworks, Scrum, Kanban, Lean, Six Sigma, SAFe. And none of these frameworks are complete by design. They are incomplete, ladies and gentlemen. And when we are applying these frameworks, one need to understand the context what we are working in. But sometimes we fail to do that, and because of our biases and the personal preferences, in the name of Agile, in the name of Scrum or SAFe, we apply them without even understanding why we are doing it in the first place. When we do that, people tend to celebrate things people tend to celebrate things which are quite superficial and mechanical. We can sing Kumbaya and say, oh, we are doing an amazing work, and come up with some artificial, useless metrics. We don't even know what we are measuring, but we collect data. And due to this, we have seen some of the organizations, nearly 52% of the Fortune 500 companies have disappeared since year 2000. Ladies and gentlemen, this data is pre-COVID. And now with COVID and the war in Ukraine, the markets are aggressively moving, and we are seeing the impact of it. The redundancies which are happening, the challenges what we are seeing globally, it is also impacting us directly or indirectly. But there is good news, ladies and gentlemen. There is good news. As we are growing and learning, the maturity of the people is definitely improving. And we also are aware that Agile or any frameworks out there, they're not the single bullet. So for this, one needs to understand what is the context we are working in. And we all have a choice. This choice of which you choose should depend on what is the problem you're trying to solve, objectively fitting the best approach to the nature of the problem. So, in a nutshell, if you want to bring change in, understand the context, what is the problem we are trying to solve, and use the relevant tools that will help us. But while we are doing this, we need to take the entire system into focus. We need to take the entire system into focus. Now let's look at, what does the systems coach do? A systems coach coaches the client as the system itself. A system coaches the client as the system itself. It is a single entity with its own distinct voice, needs, perspectives, and concerns. Organization leaders and coaches often work to create change within these systems. They are integrated systems coaching skills that helps us to unlock the potential of these systems and help us to embrace what is possible. So when you're working as a systems coach, what are the questions one would ask, ladies and gentlemen? So have a look at this. What is the system trying to achieve? What is the long-term strategy? And how does a system interact with the other systems? The entire organization is a system, and your system is your client. That's what we are trying to do. And there are various benefits of using this perspective, taking the bigger perspective. So for that, one needs to understand what is the current state, aware of what are the first steps are, identify what is important to you and your teams, how to increase the productivity, focusing on the individuals rather than the entire group. And more importantly, from all those tasks, how to prioritize what matters to this organization, which we are coaching. So for this, ladies and gentlemen, one needs to have an agile and a lean mindset. What do I mean by that? If you look at lean is about lean is a mindset in which we are looking at the entire process and how do we optimize it to remove the waste so it becomes leaner, meaner, faster, and you can build happier employees and customers. And if you look at agility, it's the balance between how flexible and adaptable we are to make those challenges. We can't think agile in isolation or lean in isolation. Let's take lean in isolation. Can we carry it to an extreme where we can reduce waste to 0%? Is that a yes or a no, ladies and gentlemen? Type in the chat window, please. No. Yes, we cannot go lean in isolation. We should be taking that mindset, bringing that agility and the lean mindset together. The intent, what is the intent behind? Let's look at this. The intent behind is to create a powerful organization. We are moving away from silos to collaborating across the organization, from being reactive to proactive. Being the right first time, where we spend most time analyzing analysis paralysis. Instead of doing that, what are the options we can do? What are the opinions we can try and experiment to improve that? Instead of being an expert, having a diverse team, having the diverse skills to solve the problems together. And how do we put our employees and our customers first? I do agree, putting the customers first helps us to understand their needs. If we do not have happier employees, do you think they're going to build amazing products? Let's take Twitter, for example. Twitter is under a new leadership. And with this new leadership, changes have come in. Nearly 75% of the Twitter employees have resigned. Nearly 75% of the Twitter employees. That's interesting. So with the way it's going, I'm not sure if Twitter can withstand for a year, maybe less than a year. I might be wrong. But the most important thing is we need to take everything into consideration when we are bringing change in. So ladies and gentlemen, when we are working as system coaches, the unique difference between an agile coach and a system coach is agile coaches, the leaders, they are working from inside the system. System coaches work with the system from the outside. So you need them both to help us to drive change together. For us to move forward, there are various things one need to consider. What is the right framework to use? What is the right organization structure? I work with some organizations, they have from a CEO to a graduate in the team, there are 17 layers of leadership, 17 layers. Just imagine you want to bring change now. Something happened in the market and we need to adapt. How quick the decision making is? It can be detrimental, which also reminds me of Titanic. How many of you heard about Titanic, ladies and gentlemen? It couldn't, there is a reason why it's at the bottom of the sea. It couldn't adapt. It couldn't navigate itself when there was a big obstacle in front of it. What if there were an armada of ships? As an organization, if it becomes like Titanic, it might disappear one day. So what if we are creating an armada of ships where each team, business unit becomes an entity on its own, like a startup mentality, where each of the teams, they have a startup mentality. They're all aligned towards the vision, the North Star of the organization. So as system coaches, we need to understand what is the right culture we are trying to build for the entire organization, how we are optimizing the flow of value. So when you talk about flow, I've always heard leaders and coaches, why do we need to concentrate on flow? Why does it matter? Why does it really matter for us? So in your teams, you got the moment you get a requirement to deliver, there are a series of steps. But if you're looking at the entire process, can we identify what are the waste bottlenecks that stop us from delivering value quicker to our end users? Can we improve the flow? Can we improve the flow at the team level? The answer is yes. Yes, we can improve the flow at the team level. If the teams are successful, can we apply the same opportunities to the business units? Can we improve the flow at the business units? The answer is yes. Can the same principles be applied to the enterprise level? The answer is yes again, ladies and gentlemen. And we also need to look at how do we build innovative products from across the organizations and more. And for this, one needs to have the agile and the lean mindset to understand what matters for the organization and the teams to move forward. To make this happen, there is one thing coaches need to do. They need to tease information from the system itself, to seek the truth or hide your truth and hide your head in the sand. Both requires digging. So these coaches need to dig, understand what matters, what really matters, and what change means to them. And having that kind of a success criteria and defining your journey, before you can take some actions, I would recommend, these are some of the things that help me to bring change at the enterprise level. Understanding, for us to bring those changes, the new changes which we're going to come and work on, what kind of training or education we need to provide to our employees. What should be the communication structure? How often we need to evaluate and reassess the ways of working and the way we can plan ahead. Planning is very important, but following a plan is not. How do we adapt this journey moving forward? And for this, there are skills what I would recommend for these enterprise coaches or the system coaches. Some of the skills for the system coaches is to understand how to facilitate these powerful conversations. Facilitation is a key skill, ladies and gentlemen, bringing the people together for a common purpose. As a facilitator, you're not responsible for the content, but you're responsible for the process where you are neutral, because at the end of the day, that your team are the people, they're going to do the magic. It's not only that. As a coach or a facilitator, as a leader who's a change agent, you also need to understand what do you mean by professional coaching. As a coach, you're not trying to provide solutions. As a professional coach, you're not providing solutions, but you are helping people to find their own solutions. And at times, it's not only coaching, at times you might be mentoring where you're providing your pearls of wisdom, your expertise to your teams or your organizations. At times you might be teaching. How do you bring that change in? What are the skills you need to bring that change? At times, you will be facilitating those, you will be dancing at that moment to make that happen. So there are various organizations who are training, building, helping people to build those skills. And one of the organizations I work for is Leadership Tribe. So some of the programs which they're doing is teaching people how to facilitate, teaching people how to maintain a stance where you're coaching, mentoring, facilitating, teaching, and bringing change using the skills, as well as, so for the people who are working at the enterprise level, also being aware what does an enterprise consists of, understanding what are the structures, the business processes, the programs, the business processes, the leadership coaching, the mentoring. How do we bring those elements to the enterprise level? Once you're able to get that awareness, how do we coach through these transitions? How do we use these skills to help people and the teams or the business units or even the enterprise itself to bring that kind of a change? There are many training programs out there. I would like you to go and investigate. But if you're coming down to some of the programs, I'll be more than happy to see you. So on that note, I will take some couple of questions in this. Take a couple of questions from this webinar. Let me stop sharing my screen and look at the chat window. So we have some, what is the difference between a system coach and an agile system coach? So ladies and gentlemen, once we need to understand what is system coaching and what are the, one needs to be aware about, as a systems coach, how do we bring the client awareness to the team? How do we help these people to get that kind of awareness where we are able to help people to create that kind of an alignment towards the organization goal? And how do we help these people to move forward into that action? And as a systems coach, how do we facilitate these conversations and understanding our own biases and building the relationships between the coaches who are working with the teams, business units, and bringing that alignment towards the entire organization as a change? So if you're adding agility to it, with respect to Agile, there are two parts to it. One is the mindset, the other one is the ways of working. In the name of Agile, there are various engineering frameworks. The various engineering frameworks which delivers value. For example, Scrum is used for complex projects. So when you're working for Scrum, and Kanban is mainly used in some organizations, they used Kanban for the operations. And some organizations, they even use Scrumban. They brought Scrum and Kanban together to deliver it. So how do we optimize this kind of frameworks? For that, I would recommend these Agile coaches need to have at least good understanding of different frameworks out there. And with respect to the context, how do we bring those change? So I would recommend to investigate more on those, Arjun. And there are some wonderful tools which you can use at the team level, business unit, and the enterprise as well. There's one question from Tejas: do the certifications offer coaches toolkits and that one have disposable to practice? The answer is yes, Tejas. Regarding the tools, remember, tools are brilliant. But as coaches, if one does not understand the context and use the tools, it's useless. I have a quote. It can be annoying for some. A fool with the tool is still a fool. One needs to understand the context before you use any tools, ladies and gentlemen. So in the training programs from Leadership Tribe, we will be practicing. It's a hands-on practice. You'll be learning about the tool, and you have a hands-on practice with the rest of the siblings, with the participants itself. How are you going to use those tools for the given case studies or a given problem or an opportunity you want to create? So it's just not theory. If you are coming to the training programs, one has to practice, practice, practice. And that's what we will be doing in the classrooms. Okay. Oh, yes, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'll be more than happy if you can reach out to me, and I'll be out, or you can also send out an email on hello@leadershiptribe.com. I'll be more than happy. What would be your advice on the first step to take as a coach in the system coaching? So it's an anonymous attendee. Okay, the first step is to learn. What do you mean by system? What do you mean by complex systems? What do you mean by complex adaptive systems? What do you mean by system thinking? When you have all these perspectives, what are the tools out there that can help us to bring change? So it starts from learning and investigating from within yourself. And these learnings helps us to create awareness of a coach. So that you are not so that one is not using their own biases or preferences to bring change in, where you're taking the entire system into consideration, not in isolation. For me, system coaches are like zoom lens cameras, where they zoom out and zoom in. When you're zooming in at a problem, understand what's really happening at the event, understanding the patterns, understanding the underlying structures, and zoom out, looking at what's happening around the system as well. We are part of the same ecosystem, ladies and gentlemen. So getting that kind of an awareness, once you are able to have that awareness, what kind of tools you can use, and practicing them. So when you're going and working with your client, it becomes like a flow of value for your individuals, teams, business units, as well as your organizations. You're there to serve a system, where a system is the entire entity itself. Okay. Oh, you want to follow leadership? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, my colleague is going to share the links of Leadership Tribe. There's some amazing content on currently on Leadership Tribe website, which you can go and check it out about system coaching, the role of system coaches, and how you can use this, the principles, what you're learning in system coaching at the portfolio level. And how can you Kanbanize some of the systems in such a way you can drive the value from end to end? Yes, you can also do that. Ladies and gentlemen, I do understand that my technology has went kaput. Apologies, that was something out of my control. But I do appreciate your patience, and thank you very much. Are there internal cohorts for NLC conducts? Yes, Tejas, we have a lot of internal cohorts, which we run for our graduates, the alumni within the Leadership Tribe. Once in a month, we meet up, we practice using the tools. And sometimes some of the alumni who got graduated from Leadership Tribe, the challenges which they are facing with their clients or the organizations they're working with, they bring in those challenges. And we also have some of the alumni. I personally train more than 50,000 people myself. And I'll be looking, and some of these people do come back and we practice together and we work together how to improve our skills, how do we improve our toolkit, and what are the challenges we are currently facing. If there are common challenges, is there a way we can codify and learn from each other and build that relationships for you to personally grow, as well as help your organizations and your teams grow? So Tejas, I'm lovely. I'm looking forward to catch up with you as well. So one of my colleagues is going to catch up with you after this call and see what information you need, and we can take it from there. Okay. So ladies and gentlemen, it was a pleasure. It was a pleasure to have you in the session, even though my network, with the network challenges and everything. Thank you very much for taking your time, and looking forward to see you next time. Have a lovely day and a lovely